to Create Wealth Through Franchising podcast and Kim Daly TV. In my studio today, Mr. Brent Chapman from Greensboro, North Carolina. He is a multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee of Homefront Brands. Brent, welcome to the studio of Kim Daly TV.
Well, thanks for having me, Kim.
No, thank you for being here today, because I have a feeling, guys and gals, that we are talking to a rock star stud. So let's dive into this conversation, Brent, and tell my listeners how you stumbled into franchising. Like, we joke in franchising, right? That like nobody wakes up and goes, oh yeah, my future is in a franchise. So what was happening in your life when you were like, I'm going to do something different, and I think it might be a franchise?
Gosh, so about 8 years ago, I was young, fresh out of college, just kind of looking for what to do next. I was just working at the YMCA, and I met Tyler Kirk, who was getting into franchising what was then called Labor Pains, now Window Hero, that was now a part of Homefront Brands. And he was like, we're looking to have somebody franchise this thing in Greensboro. And I had a job lined up. I called and told him I'm not interested. And I bought a truck and moved to Greensboro all within like 3 weeks, to start a business. And my mom and dad cried and thought I was going to be homeless, and thought I was making a terrible decision. Signed an apartment lease for like $300 a month. I was broke. And then, and now here we are 8 years later with, I think, 12 total territories and 3 different franchise businesses, not homeless. So it worked out. Yeah.
And as a boy mom, I would say now your mom is crying tears of pride.
Yeah. I had a job offer at a headhunting firm for like $100,000 starting salary, and turned it down to basically have no promise of income. So
what drove you to take that risk? Like to walk away from a salary of $100,000 fresh out of college, right? That's like the dream, right? And then to move, where did you move from?
So I was in Charlotte, the Lake Norman area. My mom and dad are still there, and moved to Greensboro. I'd had some friends that were kind of moving this way, being a part of there's a good church here that I was known. I had some, other connections out this direction. And I lived in that small town my whole life. I didn't really want to stay around with another job. And it felt like if I was ever going to do anything crazy, 22, 23 would probably be a time to try it. So I just thought the option, I move at the pace of my own drum here kind of things I always have. You know me, like I'm a loose cannon even now. So it's like that was kind of, it was like a challenge that I thought was going to be fun to try to do. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, so I'd never done any of that work before I even started. So it was wild.
The founder?
Tyler Kirk.
So what was it about Tyler that like made you want to follow him?
Just a super genuine guy. If you ever met him, he's just, he's like a big kid at heart. His story was very similar to kind of what I thought. He was young when he started his own business, kind of started door knocking, window cleaning gutters. And it was wild, but he had a vision that I was bought into, a character of other franchisees that I thought would fit well. And just the vision of that, of helping young men kind of grow in their walk. And now the vision is a bunch of young guys. We could see them become young and grow into families, and these 19-year-olds turn to 30-year-olds, that we could see that kind of process take place here. And the vision worked within like a couple of years. Everybody I'd hired, all 6 of them stayed around for about 3 years. We all started single dudes, and then we were all a couple of years later married and having babies. So it was fun to watch us all do this life together. And then now we've almost kind of restarted the cycle. Some of them have left. Most of them are managers. Almost every single one of my original employees are either working for me still, or they work for Homefront. So it's been fun. Yeah. So we just have added to the chaos with more franchises along the way.
Awesome. Okay. So you follow Tyler, your mom and your dad cry.
Yeah.
They would lost our son to a cult or something.
Yeah.
So you go from a $300 a month apartment to now you own, what did you say? How many territories? And I know you're launching your third business in the home front.
Yes, I think Window Hero owns 5 territories. Top Rail owns 4, and then we'll buy 4 with the new franchise that we're hoping to launch here soon with Homefront. So I think that's
That's
like
amazing.
12 or 13. So yeah, back when I first bought, it wasn't by the territory, it was by the city. So it's kind of a little skewed now. So, 8 years ago, you didn't buy like the home territories, you bought the city. So I bought Winston, High Point, and Greensboro. And now as they've broken them up into territories, it's technically I own a few more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's get to the heart of that question of, why do you keep investing in the same franchisor?
What they have going on, in my opinion, at Homefront is really really strong. I mean, Jeff is great, but most of the people that I interact with are my brand presidents, and then the people kind of in that circle there. So I really wasn't super ready to start a new brand, a new franchise. But then when I met Todd, I was pretty bought into the idea, and I wasn't quite ready, but we were beginning talks. I was getting to a place where Window Hero was kind of running itself. And then when Homefront just kind of captured my all my interest in one of stacking them. So using same managers, same staff, same type of business models, almost allowing kind of repeat clients to kind of bounce between home service industries. So when they kind of gave me that vision of stacking businesses, and then Zach Dude and I sat down and talked about growing kind of growing wealth. And then even that we were interested in opening up other Window Heroes just in other states. And then we basically had to land, do we want to do this other, like the same thing we did other places and have to travel, or do we just start stacking here? And Homefront kind of just brought it all together for us to make it a little bit more of a clear vision of doing this here.
It's really amazing. And for those who may not be following this, let me backtrack and just give a little bit more clarity. So what we're talking about is that Brent has built, we'll say the vertical, right? Window Hero, like one vertical. And now he's going horizontal instead of, like he said, going out and building additional territories in other states and having to learn the challenge of managing businesses from afar. He can double back, add another home services brand in the same territory, serving the same customers, using the same team of employees, still franchising with the same leadership, right, at Homefront. And this is one of the fastest ways to scale wealth. Like, wealth is always created through scale. It will never be about one of anything, one team, one truck, one location, it's always about how we can leverage our time across and with systems. And I love the testimony that as a young guy, he gets established in one, and then he sees the vision because he's part of a group of people that he's fully bought into. So what does Kim Daly always say to you? Franchising is who, not what. Would you agree with that, Brent?
I would totally agree with that. That's completely true. Yeah. Put in a little context. Window Hero had about 9 trucks with probably 15 employees, some full-time, some part-time. And I got to a point where I was working maybe 10 hours of active weeks with Window Hero. And that's when we launched Top Rail within all that too. So my time was able to be.
That's really amazing. And guys, listeners, this isn't so much about the specific brand as it is about the story and what you can accomplish through the right franchise partner. That's really what I want you to take away, because if you get inspired, I don't want you to go directly to that franchise, or I want you to come to Kim Daly. That's the whole point of me creating this content for you, right? So you can learn about all the different options there are, but then say, I don't know where to start. And that's where I meet you. When you come to me and we look at your goals and your interests and what you want to build and scale. And then with my 22 years of knowledge and relationships, I match those specific franchisors to you. Because one of the things we can't really get into in this kind of a conversation is the culture at Homefront. Just by seeing Brent's face and hearing him talk, I can understand 100% why he would be drawn to the men at Homefront. In fact, I have a very good friend of mine who texted me the other day. He's in franchise development, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about me joining Homefront?" And knowing his personality and knowing the culture at Homefront, I was like, dude, that's a slam dunk job for you. You 100% belong in that culture at Homefront. So that's what you're getting when you invest when you invest time with a good franchise consultant like Kim Daly. It's not matching like, oh, you love to work out, so I have to show you the gym, because not all gym franchisors are the same. The culture behind the franchise is what I'm matching you to. I want to
Yeah.
put you in an environment where you're connected to people that you believe can coach and mentor you, and you're open to receiving that coaching. So on that note, Brent, like when you think about, like, you were a young guy, I'm sure you were probably very open and coachable because you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, speak a little bit to just the willingness to be able to follow their lead and how important it is to follow what the franchisor says to do in order to be successful in a franchise.
I guess so. First it was Tyler, then it became Homefront. Most of what I got bought into was this. Honestly, we were, I was the fourth, I think, window hero, and I was the first top row to launch, and I'll be the first to launch this new franchise. They were pretty open with me. They're like, "Look, this is all new concepts, and we think you're the guy, and we want to kind of task a challenge." And I honestly, there's pride involved in me of being like, "Yeah,
Pop out your
hey."
chest, Brent.
Yeah. So being like, with the first top row to launch, the goal was to hit 1 million in year one, which we did. And so the goal for Window Hero was fastest ever hit 1 million, which we were. So it was like, okay, we've got a new thing going. Proof of concept was something that I'm not good at marketing, and I'm not good at kind of like I'm good at sales, and I'm good at quick growth, but I'm not good at organization. And so basically what I had behind me was a team of people that was like, okay, Brent, go out and blow this thing up. And then as the organization stuff kinds of fall, you let us know how we need to kind of become better at this. And whether that be CRMs or vendors or processes that need to take into place. So at some point, Homefront will not be that. They'll be we've got hundreds of locations. We're really established, because that's what attracts a lot of people in, is like, we're a proof of concept, and you can come in and buy this and go. I'm not that guy. I don't really want to have proof of concept. I want to have something to be proud of, and us growing and doing this thing and feeling like we've created something that is something that not very many people feel like they could do. So yeah, I was all bought into being like, all right, well, if anyone's going to do it, I think I could probably do that. And so that's my skill set, is growing and building quickly, and then leaving like a tornado mess of just things behind me as we kind of figure it out along the way. So that's what the franchise has been good for us for, is, okay, I went out in our first 2 months and sold 300 grand of revenue. Now where do we buy this stuff from? What do we do? How do we, okay, now we got customers that want to pay different directions. It's kind of like, okay, let's figure this out along the way. Obviously, Homefront, as we grow, they're getting more processes in place well before we did with Window Hero. But there's still kinks to me when I sat down with Todd, brand president of Top Rail, you're like, you're the first. So it's like, you're going to come up with, we had this whole pricing structure of way we wanted to price things. And then, within like the first couple of weeks, we're like, Todd, this isn't working. It's taking too long, or I'm giving people astronomical prices because the system's not spitting it out correctly, or just things like that we were trying to kind of work through the kinks for. And, a lot of franchisees may not take the challenge on. They just want you to have it set in stone and ready to go. And so that's why Homefront and Tyler have been a good partnership for me. I like being this kind of like path setter, trend setter.
You're a pioneer, man.
We're building this. Yeah. So to me, that is what has been, on top of building what we are, that has been fun to do. And the team behind me to build it. So like, as we go, every month we are having conversations with either brand specific people or marketing or strategy or anybody within those networks of, all right, here's what's not working. As we are, now we're, I think I was the first franchisee, maybe, I'm not sure, but I was at a Homefront last week. we did like 400 something thousand dollars in a month, last like 2 months ago. And I was like, all right, now we're growing to a point where there's things that have got to change. We're not doing, 150K months anymore. There's processes that we've got to get faster at. And there's, not to bore you, but like, we can't be driving 2 hours for materials for one vendor, like those kind of things. It was like, okay, we've got to get faster and better at this. So,
You know what I
and then,
love about this conversation is just how like honest and real this is. Like there's a lot of people out there listening who are like, well, I'm buying a franchise because I want it proven. But I mean, you got to know the guys at Homefront are loving having Brent on the team because every franchisor needs somebody or a small group of people that are willing to be the trailblazers, right? And what's so amazing is that there are different opportunities out there for every personality. So don't be dismayed if you're like, I don't want to be blazing a trail. I'm buying a franchise because I want something proven and cookie cutter. Perfect. Kim
yeah,
Daly has options for that personality and for that investor too. But in not everybody coming in, because I've certainly done my fair share of placements with Top Rail. And they're not everybody in that said yes as a trailblazer either, because Brent has gone before you, because he and some other people have already started to iron this out, and they're working closely with the franchisor to perfect the system. And what I want to say about that is, look, if that scares you, you shouldn't want to be a business owner in general, because if a
right,
business is not changing and growing, it's dying. We are never staying the same, right? You're either moving forward or you're sliding backwards. So pick it, right? So if you want to be a business owner, even in a franchise, everything you're saying yes to today is not going to be the same 3 or 5 years from now. And why would you
yeah,
want it to be? We all have to be adapting and growing and changing. That's the nimble part of being a business owner, being flexible and stretching and growing and changing with it. If you're resting on your laurels, you're already sunk and your business is probably dying. So just
right,
take that to heart. If you're a listener and you're a little bit nervous about this, I find it incredibly inspiring. And just, look, Brent, you were a young guy. You didn't have a lot to risk, right? But you did walk away from a 6-figure job that you could have easily taken, but you took on the challenge and look where it led you. I mean, so when you're talking to somebody who's validating a concept, maybe on the home front, what is your advice to them about getting involved in a franchise?
great question. I do want to preface, we are way farther along than like where we were a couple years ago.
Of
There's
course.
70 plus locations, I think, for both brands. That was definitely beginning. But now when I'm having the conversation, there's really two paths in franchising. There's I'm young and I've got time for like a growth business that's a repeat model, or there's, hey, I've been in corporate America and I'm in my 40s or 50s and I really want something that's going to start fast. Each franchise network is going to have kind of models probably for you. And that's really what I generally recommend people. If I'm talking to a guy that's in his 20s or early 30s, I'm generally like, all right, look, I was 28 years old after 5 years, working 5 hours a week, making 6 figures a year because my business had time, and you could ride that out in the sunset for forever. But like if you're 50, you're probably not going to want to do that, because the earlier years of that, those kind of franchise businesses, you can't afford employees. It's kind of grinded out. It's, I was on ladders writing people's information on my forearm, like on a call. It's like I couldn't afford assistants or things like that. Whereas, Top Rail or businesses like that scale so much faster. And so, it just depends on the person and kind of the place of life you're at. And so, if you're in your 20s and you're like, I've got time to grind this thing out, the repeat business model is just such a beautiful model to have, because 10 years from now, you're going to have a $1 to $2 million business that's profiting 20%. And you can just kind of ride that repeat model for the next 20 years if you wanted to. If it's like, I've been 30 years in corporate America, I'm looking for something different. I'm not sure cleaning gutters in 1 year, at that stage of your life and trying to do something like nitty gritty, is quite what would be the best. Some people are. Some people are like, no, I've been behind a desk, I want to do that. And that's fine. I try to steer them in the direction of like, Top Rail probably could be a $2 million business in 24 months at 20% profit. Just very different scalability, but you're not going to repeat those clients. You've kind of got to hustle and bustle it up to that point and then hire your salespeople. And then eventually probably I'd say you're talking a shorter time of a bigger business that can have, a little bit different of a landscape to it. So just kind of depends on the person. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And that's why there's a franchise consultant to help you sift and sort through all of this information. You don't have to feel you have to go it alone. My services are totally free. So, Brent, I want to know what's next for you. You're this multi 7-figure guy, right? Are you going to 8 figures? Like, what is the goal for you? You're so young.
Well, honestly, I have no idea. This has been like, so my wife and I have an agreement, probably stop it somewhere around 4 or 5 franchises. Either sell them or have something for our kids. We're really not sure. The goal would be if I've got, let's say we get to 5 franchises and they're all somewhere between, 1 and 5 million, sell them as a package deal and just be retired at 45 is maybe the current goal. But if, we don't have any kids yet, so that could change. But this is all kind of developing as we go. So I never know what's next until honestly, Zach Duden was like, "Hey, I think we've got something for you. You want to meet and talk about it?" And again, we're interested. So here we are trying for a third business. So
I love it.
yeah,
I love that adventurous spirit in you. Oh my gosh, it's just so inspiring to me, when people just are not afraid to just chase their dreams. I'm sure that Brent has had some stumbles along the way, especially with pioneering brands where everything isn't all figured out, but it's his personality and his just a belief in himself. I mean, I'm just talking to him for 20 minutes and I know why he's so successful. And if you're listening, you're probably figuring that out too. So we're not looking for everything to be hand delivered, on the silver spoon in a franchise. Because that's just not reality, right? And you do have to sometimes show up and hustle and grind it out until you get to a point to where now you've earned the right to step back. But there are also other opportunities where that's not a true statement. And again, as I've said already, you don't have to figure that out on your own. I'm here to help you. And I'd really love to be your franchise consultant if this conversation has inspired you. So Brent, I really appreciate you being my special guest here today. And I wish you and your family like all the best. Because I'm so close to home, friend, I'm sure that I'll be staying in contact with your story and watching you develop more brands. And I really hope that you go on and build an 8-figure or more empire. You certainly seem to be on track to do that. And I think you absolutely deserve every good thing in your life.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to meet you. So for those who are inspired and you're ready to begin your own journey to find your perfect franchise, well, I want to be your franchise consultant. So please follow the link in the description below. And until next time, do not forget that my name is Kim Daly and I want to be your daily coach.